What is the sort of, you know, the North Star of all of this engagement?
Well, I think it varies. I think the key is, I think what you were just saying a moment ago, the key is to find something that you're passionate about that resonates with a broad audience. And I come from the business side of this. I'm looking at, I work with the root on the business side, so I look at how do we begin to take these technologies and actually monetize them. So this is to your question she was asking here earlier. But how do we look at this and how do we monetize them? And quite honestly, the key to monetizing a business is making sure that you have something that's relevant to a constituency. And I think, you know, it doesn't really matter what you're ultimately doing as long as you're adding value and people are willing to engage with you on a regular basis and ultimately, hopefully, also willing to pay for your content, or you have someone who's willing to pay to advertise to the audience that you have been able to generate.
Let me go into a couple of different areas, and I'm going to start with social issues, marketing, and public health, since that's the context in which Representative Conyers spoke to us, and that's the context also in which Robert Townsend and Ray Ramsey spoke to us about issues of you know, you saw the narrative in Diary of a Single Mom that was about breast cancer. You had a narrative about the economy. And I think that Representative Conyers made a very clear and direct connection between access and the future of the black community, not just in terms of money, but also in health. All that said, when you think about what needs to happen between now and, say, the midterm elections, or now and the 2012 presidential elections, what does it take to take people who have access and turn them into informed citizens, turn them into people who can really deal with the healthcare debate on a level of having their voice heard, being able to encourage action on the part of their congresspeople, being able to deal with all of the messaging that's out there? I mean, if you're sort of new in the pond of digital technology and you're trying to figure out how to be a more empowered person on the healthcare debate, and I'll just be specific and throw it out there. Crystal, what do you think? What kinds of questions should you be asking or resources should you be seeking?
You know, I don't think it's about any specific questions that people need to ask. They need to get out there and explore the net. You know, there's a wealth of information out there, but if you don't make use of the tools that you have accessible to you, it's not going to do you any good. And so with, I think, you know, the social media bent, it's a gateway, it's an entry tool, right? It makes everything easier. It democratizes the internet. You know, it's like once upon a time you could only get on the internet if you were a sophisticated web designer. Not the case anymore. But
where do you go? I guess that's what I'm asking, is once you're on this thing called the internet, where do you go for information? And it could be a personal reply, something that you like.
Well, in addition to organizing Blogging While Brown, I'm also what some people call a micro activist. I use the technology to wage war. And so I think the question's reversed. The question should be, what should those powerful people who are driving this legislation communicate to me, a concrete step I need to take that will drag it across the finish line? Don't put it on the internet users to say, figure it out on your own, find your spot. It's not my job to drag your legislation across the line. It's not my readers' jobs to figure out how to help Gina. It's Gina's responsibility to say, I need you to do this today. I need you to call this person. This is their number and their email. You may get their receptionist. Her name is Jane. If you want to get past Jane, you need to do this. And if you give people concrete steps, it will eliminate all excuses for apathy. But when you just leave it wide open and say, well, people aren't mobilizing, you haven't given them a target to hit. You know, you got to give people a target to hit. You know, I'm somewhat frustrated up here right now, and so y'all can follow me on Twitter, and we will talk about this later. But
what are you frustrated about?
Because it's all top down. Yeah. Well, then, then
bring it up.
Okay, it's not top down. It's you bring people up. You empower people with the technology, and you can do it with them, but you have to give them some guidance. It's two way, because for instance, I started out with righteous indignation and an internet connection. I was passionate about one issue. The technology amplifies what's already there. But if there's nothing there, it can't amplify anything. So if you're talking about organizing people to get them to move on healthcare or any other bill, you have to break it down like a fraction, because you can't. The most powerful thing online is the ability to search, the ability to find something, the ability to filter, and that's actually what bloggers do. They are human search engines. They go through this massive 170 million blogs that Technorati was tracking, 160,000 created every day. They go through all this massive content, and they tell people like them, this is what I found important. And so you got to filter out all the stuff for them. Don't put the onus on people to figure it out for them. If you're going to do micro activism, be concrete, be specific, and give them a target to hit.
Conservatives are winning the war of the tweet. The reason I particularly wanted to be on this panel is because I don't feel our representatives who perhaps are pushing legislation that is important to us are using social media effectively to help me find you. If you tweet and tell me to call at 12, I'm going to call at 12. But you can't just start the hour before you need me. You need to establish a relationship. And as much has been echoed, what I see and concerns me sometimes is new media, social media. If it's used effectively, it collapses hierarchies. And some folks aren't so comfortable with all of a sudden, we're peers. Right. We're peers. You need me and I need you. Okay, so just what we're saying, here it is. The conservatives have got this down. Do you think they're asking their people to analyze and to think? They're saying, call this person at 2 o'clock, clog the phones, don't let them leave for the vote, and it's done. And they do it.
Well, let me get some people, you can continue talking, but I want to get some people to line up to give us some questions.
A couple of points to Gina's point and to Carmen's point. In Dallas, my congressperson, Eddie Bernice Johnson, has figured this out, and she figured it out a long time ago. Anytime that she sent out something to the news media, she sent it out to me. And most of the people didn't know who I was, but I had a whole different audience. And so now that we're doing DallasSouthNews.org, if Congresswoman Johnson is having an event and they're looking for a moderator, they don't just look to the Dallas Morning News and the Channel 5, they look to me and the people in my organization. And I think from what I see, there aren't very many people on Capitol Hill that are doing that. And even in our exchange earlier, and I'll say it, even in our exchange earlier with the people from One Economy, we're standing as peers. We are standing as peers. And again, it's kind of like if they wanted to hit 1 million people tonight, that was their chance. Right. That was their chance to hit 1 million people tonight. Mm-hmm. And that's an opportunity that a lot of people are missing between entertainers and congresspeople or whoever, but the people who are on it are not missing it.